Hi, I'm Dr. David Dobson. Welcome to Conversations. Today, my guest is Dr. Amanuel Abraha Teklu, a recent PhD graduate in cellular and genetic medicine from University of Copenhagen. He specializes in the molecular mechanism of aging, and his research explores how altitude affects the aging process in the Tigray region in northern Ethiopia. Emmanuel, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, Dr. David, for having me for this conversation and just to discuss about my research that I have done during my PhD.
You were born in Adwa, a city in the Ethiopian highlands. How did your personal upbringing in a high altitude region influence your scientific curiosity to later investigate the cellular and genetic mechanism of aging in this exact environment?
Thank you, Dr. David. This is really interesting question because, here in Ethiopia, people perceive that living at high altitude slows aging, but the scientific reason behind that is not known. Just people just they consider living at high altitude is good for health and makes to age slower, and this is just by observation. And I was growing up just sharing this observation that is seen among the community dwellers. So when I come to Sweden and Denmark and just learn the scientific mechanisms behind aging, then that was, uh, uh, that was curiosity that was attached with my curiosity. So basically, uh, even though the education is not that much expanded in our community or in the communities that I was grown up, people just have this observation that high altitude living slows aging and is more healthier. Yeah.
Interesting. Emmanuel, you has diverse international experience. You studied in Sweden and Denmark. Uh, how these international experience shaped your or rather say change your perspective on how we define aging globally.
Yeah, as I explained earlier, there was this perception that living at high altitude uh, slows aging. This is just the perception in our community. And when I come to Denmark and Sweden, then I learned the molecular and cellular basis of aging and generally age-related diseases. So I was connecting this, early childhood observation and the scientific knowledge and understanding that I gained later. So I was also trying to connect, in our community, especially the elderly. They fasting is common, and here when I come to Europe, fasting is connected with positive outcomes of aging.
Yeah.
And also, I was just trying to compare, in our community in Ethiopia, the elderly care is the responsibility of the family. But in Europe, especially in the Scandinavian, it's the responsibility of the municipality, the government. And, here in Ethiopia, caring for elderly is considered as blessing and just a responsibility of the family members. But when I come to Europe, caring for elderly is a right. It's a right, not government do, because they have the right to live healthier and happier life during their elder period. So there is huge difference, not only in the in the caring of the elderly and in the government policies, but also in the understanding. Here, the understanding about aging is, is from the religious perspective, But in Europe, it's just a scientific understanding. So to live a happier and healthier life during the aging period, then the elderly follow active life. They have participation in different activities. They have this special access to elderly care. They can get care while they are at home. But in developing countries like Ethiopia, they don't get that access, and it's only few elderly populations that get care even from family. Many are isolated and they don't get access and to healthcare. They don't get adequate food, even shelter. You can find it's common in Ethiopia, for example, to find elderly begging on the streets and having no clothes and with a lot of diseases. So I mean, it's incomparable at all. But when we connect it to science, then in Europe they have already developed this scientific society. So every unhealthy condition, whether it occurs in the elderly or before, is connected to the scientific basis in the body, in the molecular and cellular changes. But here it's considered, we didn't develop a scientific society. So every perception is connected with a tradition, with a religion. So you can compare it when I traveled from Ethiopia to Europe, then it was a dramatic shift. And I was really jealous to see such kind of privilege for the elderly community in Europe, in the Scandinavian. So I am always dreaming that to have at least some aspects to transfer to Ethiopia and other low-income countries, or the scientific, the technological support, the social aspect, the economic support, and even now they have started, the environmental, creating conducive environments for the elderly life. So to mitigate, these environmental influences in the elderly. So all this combined, the life expectancy is incomparable. It's true that we do have here centenarians that can live up to 100, but that is few out of the many that lose their life early in 60s. So, the molecular and cellular knowledge that I gained during my master's in Sweden and later during my PhD, and while I was working as a research assistant in Denmark, this has changed my perception, my knowledge, even what should be the approach to, mitigate, to tackle the problems facing the elderly population in Ethiopia. But also, this is the scientific knowledge. I have also learned, what policy approach should we follow as a low-income country with the resource that we have to help the elderly population, at least to reduce the burden, the devastations they face. So it's not only the scientific knowledge, the research knowledge, but also the societal, the environmental, and the policy approach that we should change and that we should establish, that we should design and develop to help elderly population in the coming years.
So I want to go back to the science of high altitude aging. You identify a diverging effect paradox where high altitude dwellers in Ethiopia shows a reduced burden of age-related diseases and longer life expectancy. But they also show a faster rate of facial photoaging. Can you explain why the body seems to age slower on inside while appearing to age faster on the outside?
Yeah, this is also a very interesting, scientific question. And during my PhD, this is what we investigated. We investigated the risk factors variation between the highland and lowland areas. So we found that lower risk factor and disease burden at high altitude regions in Ethiopia in general. So this is just cross-sectional study. You know, it is not that strong evidence that we can conclude now, but it's an indication. You know, because it's based on one country. So if we repeat this in many countries, then we can just take it as a true effect. But we found this, and at high altitude, it's very common to have high level of exposure for ultraviolet radiation. So I think the photoaging or the facial aging or the biological aging that we observed from the facial images is higher. So this is just due to the exposure to high altitude radiation, ultraviolet radiation. And also, at high altitudes, there is less humidity, which may affect our cells to look older. And at high altitude also, we may, I don't know, if the hypoxia or low level of oxygen may also affect, our facial aging. But taken together, we observe low level of risk factors, not only environmental, behavioral, but also metabolic risk factors. They are decreased at high altitude, and the diseases are also lower. Because of this impact, then it's plausible to find extended, this longevity or life expectancy. So personally, I just would suggest, based on my research, it's because of the reduction in risk factor and disease burden that we see, the extended life expectancy at high altitude. But also, we also saw, reduced level of death rates. So this is just, it's very related results. When we investigate the cellular aspect of the lowland and highlands, then we found also decreased senescence. Senescence means the cells stop dividing permanently, and cells can stop dividing permanently. It could be because of DNA damage. It could be because of oxidative stress. It could be due to other many factors, environmental or intrinsic factors such as DNA damage that occur during DNA replication, or it could be due to inefficient DNA repair. Also can result permanent cell cycle arrest, which we call senescence. But when it comes to high altitude, we saw reduced level of DNA damage induces senescence, and this means it can contribute to healthier life in elderly population, or in the cells from the elderly population. But at the same time, we also see an increased level of cell cycle arrest or senescence. Is because of replicative senescence induced cell cycle arrest, and taken together, the impact of altitude on senescence is complex. On one aspect it increases, on the other aspect it decreases. So this is just a phenomenon or a result that opens a door for future investigation. And this is also depending, we investigate using AI or artificial intelligence. So we need to repeat this in using wet lab or using experiments. And if we repeat this, in other high altitude research in other areas, then we will find something that is interesting or that can be served as a target for tackling aging.
Mm. I want to go back and ask you because most people associate low oxygen, which you call a hypoxia, with health risk. But your research suggests that moderate hypoxia might actually extend life. So I want to ask you, how does living in a low oxygen environment potentially prime the human body for a longer health span?
Yeah, this is also a very interesting question, Dr. David. So, there are diverse evidences from hypoxia research, from the impact of hypoxia on aging. So, hypoxia can be severe and moderate, or and it can be also long-term and short-term exposures. So, generally, severe and long-term hypoxia, which is called chronic hypoxia, is has can damage many cellular and molecular process in our body, and it's largely associated with accelerated aging and increased incidence and progression of age-related diseases such as cancer, cardiovascular, and neurodegenerative. But intermittent hypoxia is also associated with positive outcomes in aging and in health in general. So this is because available evidence indicates that intermittent hypoxia has a hormesis effect. Hormesis is just a phenomenon that controlled stressors can trigger the cells to be prepared for stress response, or it's called also cellular adaptation. So, for example, uh, metabolic reprogramming. For example, when the cell are exposed to low level of oxygen, the cell can shift their metabolism from oxygen dependent into oxygen independent. This is an adaptive mechanism. And also intermittent hypoxia can also trigger a stemness of stem cells, and this can help the cell to replace damaged cells fastly, and this can help also the body to regenerate and to maintain normal function. So there are also other molecular responses that help the cell for adaptive response, angiogenesis, and other cell cycle responses can have also positive impacts. So because of this positive hormesis effect, intermittent hypoxia can be considered as a can have positive impact on aging progression and on age-related diseases. But there are also studies, for example, sleep apnea. So people that have breathing problems. This is also considered as intermittent hypoxia. So aging studies or longevity studies that are conducted on individuals with sleep apnea didn't show any extension on life expectancy. So taken together, the impact of intermittent hypoxia as a extender of life expectancy is debated. And it is also, those environmental impacts are also individual. It depends on the individual condition. On some individuals, they may have positive impact, and on some individuals, they may have detrimental effects. So that is what we see on the real experiments. As I mentioned, the individuals with sleep apnea didn't show any health benefits and life expectancy, but generally chronic and severe hypoxia are detrimental to aging and age-related diseases.
I want to go back and talk a little bit about the role of DNA damage you mentioned. You found that DNA damage induce senescence, which is like zombie state of cells or zombie-like state of cells, was significantly lower in highland dwellers. Why does the high altitude environment seem to protect immune cells from this type of damage?
Yeah, thank you very much. You are right. So when it comes the senescence investigation in my research, then on one side we saw this replicative senescence induced was increased, and this is most of the time occur due to oxidative damage when it comes at high altitude, and DNA damage induced senescence was lower, and I can just only speculate, as a scientist I can just speculate. Maybe it's at high altitude the hypoxia is increased, so the only factor that is increasing is this hypoxia induces mitochondrial dysfunction. uh, on the other side, it also reduces oxidative damage, because when there is excessive oxygen, then there is high oxidative damage. But hypoxia is also, indirectly by affecting the mitochondria, it increases oxidative damage, but directly it reduces oxidative damage. So it could be because it reduces the oxidative damage, and it's contributing for DNA damage induced senescence. And also hypoxia triggers HIF1 alpha transcription factor, and this may be also contributing for the decreased DNA damage induced senescence. But this is only speculations. But also at high altitude we have seen reduced risk factors, the behavioral, the environmental, and other risk factors were reduced at high altitude, and this collectively may also contributing to the lower level of DNA damage induced senescence. But this is just speculation. We need further investigation to identify the mechanisms behind the lower level of DNA damage induced senescence at high altitude.
I want to talk about the AI tools you used in your research. So your research utilized deep learning and facial photography to estimate biological age in rural Ethiopia, and you faced some challenges. So what are those challenges of using deep learning and facial photos study in aging in rural remote areas? And I also want to know that how can this tool revolutionize aging research in low-income countries and low-income remote areas, for example?
Yeah, thank you very much. Low-income countries are characterized by having less facilities for research, especially research facilities that are focused on aging research are almost non-existent. So that was the challenge for me during my PhD when I moved from Denmark to Tigray in Ethiopia. So a war broke out, and I couldn't move to the place where the instruments that I was supposed to use was located. So thanks to my supervisor, Dr. Morten Skype Knudsen, he come up with this AI idea to replace, there is one technique that is used to study cell cycle. It's called flow cytometer. And flow cytometer was not available in the university that I was conducting my research. So we thought instead of flow cytometer, we can investigate senescence by using machine learning. So we used this. So you can imagine how useful is AI in places where the research facility and technology is not available. So it's quite relevant. Actually, now it's expanded to the clinics and many healthcare facilities in low-income countries are equipped with, with very outdated machines, and those machines consume a lot of resources, from syringe up to a lot of reagents that are exported from the US, Europe, and now China and the Korea. So developing or using AI will solve not only the skill shortage, but also the resources. But the challenge here, the challenge that we have now, not to use AI, is that we don't have skilled manpower, and we don't have infrastructure. Developing much algorithms need, computer and its own lab, its own infrastructure, and above all, the most important challenge here is the awareness. Just shifting towards available technologies is very, very slow here. You need to convince the politicians, you need to convince the available people with the finance, and that is really hectic and it's almost impossible. So given the importance of AI, we need to collaborate with with interested funders, with interested researchers all over the globe, and I hope in the near future we will make AI very common tool here in low-income countries like Ethiopia. So collaboration and searching funds will be the only solution, and also to bring prototypes and demonstrate to the people, to create awareness, and when they see the benefits, then they are very, very fast to adapt and support. So that is how we will follow. And I'm very, very optimistic that many universities that will hear my conversation will ask us to collaborate, not only for the benefit of us, but also, the data. AI tools, by their nature, needs a diversified and large scale data. So the data that is generated from low-income countries will also benefit not only the low-income countries, but also the developed nations. We can get, we may identify patterns or biomarkers that can, that can help the world to learn from, and that can also feed the AIs developed in developed nations in Canada, in Europe, and in the US. So that is also our target, to produce large amount of diversified data, and we can sell that data and generate funds, so we can bring the AIs here, create the awareness, and we may find individuals who are highly skilled to produce even very, very accurate algorithms or machine learning tools that can help us and the world in general.
Wonderful. I want to talk about some of the specific biological benefits of living in mountain. Emmanuel, you will normalize your data using socio-demographic index (SDI) to account for differences in lifestyle and infrastructure. So when we account for lifestyle, wealth, or modern medicine, for example, what is it specifically about geography of the highlands that offers a biological advantage?
Yeah, thanks, Dr. David. The SDI is just, it's a measure. It's a measure of, development. So it's just to compare the lowland and highland. So in general, the highlands have better SDI. That means better education, healthcare access, and income. So that's why I normalized, the data from the lowland and highland, especially the risk factors and the disease burden, because the effect may be due to these factors. So to minimize the confounding effect, I have normalized that. After normalization, then I saw significant difference in this burden and risk factor prevalence between the at different altitudes. So so if we control lifestyle and all environmental risk factors and the disease burden in general, what could be the benefit of high altitude is that it's too early to say something, because there are studies undergoing. So after looking at those, the meta-analysis of the findings from the research that are conducted in all over the world with high altitudes, and it will be more, more evidence-based to say confidentially about this impact. But at this moment, just based on my research, we just saw the lower risk factor and the lower disease burden at high altitude. So this could be the benefit. And, this benefit, we have seen the impact on the life expectancy, because the high altitude living is associated with extended life expectancy when compared with the living at low altitude that showed lower life expectancy. So this is what, and also we have seen also, the lower level of DNA damage induced senescence. Senescence, as many know, that senescence is associated with many chronic diseases, with inflammation, with cancer, neurodegenerative. So having a positive impact on DNA damage induced senescence means having a positive effect on, these outcomes. So it has protective effect, although it needs further investigation and, further validity. This is also a good indication. So I can just say this positive, role of high altitude living. We can also, suggest like high altitude living may promote, physical exercise, and physical exercise is associated with, positive health and extended life expectancy as well. So, yeah, we can also mention other stuffs. I mean, on the other hand, high altitude is also associated with increased exposure of ultraviolet radiation, but that is something that we can protect with, protective materials. It's only the oxygen shortage that we cannot control, but we can also recommend people to live at moderate hypoxia for those that they can gain positive impact of it.
So to continue, I would like to discuss some of the implications of your research. You plan to discuss aging as a major risk factor for chronic diseases, and you just discussed a little bit here. Based on your research, do you believe we should treat altitude or environmental oxygen level as a potential clinical intervention for aging in the future?
Yes, but I would, put this in context. In geroscience, one of the strategies is to use modifiable factors as a strategy to protect the negative impact of aging and to promote healthier longevity. So altitude is one of the environmental factors. That means it can be modified. So altitude itself is not, the problem. It's, because it's associated with low level of oxygen and with increased level of ultraviolet radiation. So to recommend people to live longer at high altitude, we need to dissect what are the positive factors that are associated with altitude and the negative factors that are associated with altitude. So we are really early to suggest whether altitude has to be recommended so people can live longer and healthier. It will be, it will be premature to recommend, because we need to dissect the modifiable factors that can be targeted for extended life expectancy and for healthier and active aging.
You mentioned UV radiation, ultraviolet radiation, and I think you mentioned somewhere in your paper called UV tax. For those living in high altitudes, the benefit of longevity seem to come with the UV tax of increased photoaging from UV radiation. Um, Emmanuel, what practical recommendation do you have for these population to balance the internal benefit of hypoxia with the external damage of UV exposure?
Yeah, when interested individuals climb to high altitude, they have to use, protective glass. There are many protective mechanisms that can reduce the exposure to ultraviolet radiation. So I recommend to be conscious about using this mechanisms or materials. And they have also, our body has developed adaptive mechanisms. They have also to learn to be acquainted with the mechanisms to how their body should be prepared. It's called a process of acclimatization. So they should acclimatize their body before they climb to high altitude, so they can enjoy the stay at high altitudes.
So this is a very interesting study you did in Ethiopia. So I want to ask you this research in future context. So Ethiopia has the highest proportion of people permanently living in a high altitudes. Why it is so critical for the global scientific community to look at Ethiopian populations to understand the future of human longevity?
Yeah, very interesting question, because as you said, there are more than 1.5 million people globally living at high altitude. There are the Tibet, and there are the Adens, and we are here also in Ethiopia, and the largest proportion represents Ethiopia. So Ethiopia is not only about, we have also high amount of people living at low altitude. So we can be the best site or setting for those interested to study hypoxia and ultraviolet radiation impact at population level. It's not only about the altitude differences. The Ethiopian population are very diverse. So, we only studied the impact of altitude in aging, but we didn't investigate the genetic basis of aging in Ethiopia at high altitude and at lower altitudes. We didn't investigate the lifestyle impacts. We didn't study the social impacts. So how living at high altitude and low altitude can impact the aging process and age-related diseases. This can attract, the world researchers and the recently I have seen a study from one African countries. They have identified a gene that differently contributes for diabetic mellitus. So what I expect is that we can also identify targets, genetic targets, proteomic targets, transcriptomic targets, or metabolic targets that may lifestyle mechanisms, behavioral mechanisms, environmental factors that may also involved in aging, either in protective aspect or in aggravating process, in aggravating the aging and age-related diseases. So the Ethiopian population lives at different altitudes from the sea level, even below sea level. You know, the lowest altitude is found in the Afar region in the world. So the most lower altitude below sea level is 150. So it's in Ethiopia, in the Afar region. And the highest is also, we have also very high altitudes. So researchers that want to study impact of altitude or impact of environmental factors at different altitude, Ethiopia is suitable. As I said, Ethiopian population is very diverse, not only culturally, linguistically, lifestyle, and but also I also expect genetically. So yeah, we can and I'm very optimistic that we will identify new patterns if we study also the ecology. We have the very dry land, we have the humid area, we have also the very cold area like the Bali Mountains, like we have the Semi Mountains. So ecologically and environmentally, we can also identify new targets or new animals or microorganisms that can affect the aging process. Maybe they can also act as a model for aging. The naked mole rat, which is a model for impact of hypoxia. It was identified in Ethiopia for the first time. It's the Chinese workers, they found it. Now it's the best model for studying, impact of hypoxia, but also, for aging, because it's resistant for cancer and resistant for DNA damage. So it's giving a lot of, a lot of knowledge for the world. Similarly, we may find models like that in Ethiopia because the content of the country is diverse and many. And we need to collaborate for this. We have to be very open. We have to be very collaborative. And researchers all over the world should have a trust on us. And collaborate, and we can generate something that can help us and the world in general.
Sure. And thank you for sharing this, Emmanuel. I mean, honestly, so many opportunities, so many research opportunity, collaboration opportunity, and I think anybody want to do research in this area, I think this is the best place to be is in Ethiopia, and definitely collaborate with you and other scientists in Ethiopia. So definitely a lot of opportunity, in my opinion.
Thank you very much. I hope so too. That, and we are. By the way, I want to just assure interested scientists, we are very open to collaborate. Our university, Mekelle University, is very open to collaborate, and Ethiopia is also very open to collaborate. I don't think there is any, because we are just entering into the research process as a country and as an institution. There may be some misunderstandings, but it's not that we don't want, or there are very nice guys that want to prevail in the science, they have having curiosity, strong curiosity to contribute for science. So we would be very much glad to collaborate and to welcome any academic and research activity in the future.
For sure. Emmanuel, I want to ask you one secret. So, you have done this very amazing research. Uh, if there is one thing that your journey has taught you about secret of aging well, and we all know that we all want to live long and age well, what would it be? The secret.
Yeah, I mean, there is no, as the current stage of aging research, there is no one secret or one mechanism to live longer. It's, the strategy now is that we have to implement a combination of measures to promote healthier aging and to improve the quality of life of older people. So we need to improve our environment. We need to improve the lifestyle choices. We need to have adequate, we need to remove or decrease the inequality in health access. We have to ensure health access. We need to have, supportive environments. We need to fight climate change, especially countries like Ethiopia. They are very, very susceptible for climate change. And this affects, women, children, and the older people. And, especially in countries like Ethiopia, climate change affects food production. And you can witness this stunting is very, very common and at high percentage in Ethiopia, especially in the region where I am. And people are, elderly people, individuals are on the street begging, asking support. So supportive environment is very, very important, not only for the health, but for agricultural production, for the animal survival and health, and for, for the environment itself, for the environment all these for the fish, for the cattle, and, for the milk, for the bee to have honey, all these things. So lifestyle choices, behavioral factors, social factors, health access, all these affects the aging process and the progression and onset of age-related diseases. And one important factor that I didn't mention yet is the technological, the technology support. In Europe and in other developed countries, technology plays great role, especially specifically for the elderly population to move, to hear, to get medicine on time, to get the food on time. So we need, this is also very, very, very important to have here, at least those that we can adapt here or develop it here would be also very important. So to have a longer life expectancy and, in a high quality of life during the aging period, we need to combine this all. And also, to have also these medicines, this nutrient rich for those in need. We need to have this nutrient rich ingredients as well, and also this food items that can reduce oxidative stress, that can promote healthy aging. We need to follow all these things, and we need also this follow-up, health follow-up. Elderly life is characterized by multimorbidity, so we need to tackle once a disease is developed in the aged body, then we need to treat it, we need to prevent it. So this multifaceted approach is required at genetic level, at transcriptomic, proteomic, metabolic levels. We need to have this kind of access and generate data and learn from it, and design appropriate preventive, curative, and managing processes. So aging is generally, multifaceted, complicated, and it's also individual phenomenon. So we need to integrate this phenomenon to make an individual older person to enjoy his or her aging period.
Right. That's true. Emmanuel, you have spent years studying how the mountains of Ethiopia can teach us about living longer. Now that your PhD is complete, where is your research taking you next?
Yeah, I will just continue the investigation on environmental influences in aging and age-related diseases. So I want to characterize and identify the environmental influence that influence positively the aging process and age-related diseases. So those can be targeted, to promote healthy longevity. And also, I want to identify those have detrimental effects, so they can be prevented to contribute for the healthier aging. So I want to, use molecular, cellular, biochemical approaches, as well as, this bioinformatic and machine learning approaches to characterize and to identify targets that can help us to tackle the negative impact of aging and age-related diseases.
Emmanuel, thank you so much for joining us on Conversations and sharing your interesting research with us today. We look forward to seeing your research takes you next. We wish you the very best.
Yeah, thank you very much, Dr. David, for having me and allowing me to discuss my research and my research, what I have done previously and what I want to do in the future, and also for allowing me to discuss, the challenges of doing research in low-income countries and what we can use to do aging research and age-related researches in low-income countries, and to allow me to call for scientists to collaborate with us. Thank you very much again. I'm very glad to have discussion with you.
Thank you.